We are now going to further discuss on public relations. So, how do you make the media care about your story? Because everyone wants more publicity nowadays in the blockchain industry, especially in the mainstream. So, the panel will be discussing what's been lacking and potential solutions to harness PR and media relations for the better of the industry. Also, just a quick reminder on Slido, you can scan the QR code and select stage 2, put in your questions for the panels after the session. And also would like to thank Peppo for bringing this track into life. And yeah, I shall let them take it away. And let me just introduce quickly the panel. It's titled Harnessing PR, and it will be moderated by GABEY Go, the Asia editor at WARC. And WARC is a marketing and advertising knowledge platform. We have prepared a video to introduce the rest of our panelists, but we have someone special that you should check out because he is the PR in the AI section, Marcello. So fix your eyes to the screen as the video will do more justice than me. Please give a round of applause to our panelists and welcome them on stage.
All right, thanks for joining us, everyone. So we only have 30 minutes, and we do have 4 panelists, so we're going to skip the self-introductions and kind of just jump right into the topic of public relations and how to make the media care about your story. Speaking of which, obviously, we're at a stage now where the honeymoon period, the frenzy, the hysteria about all things blockchain and crypto has kind of died down a bit, and things are at a stable level now. So I guess as an opening question to all of you here on the stage is, how do you feel about the current state of things when it comes to getting the media to care about the stories that you have to say, to tell, and what's worse or what's better about things now? I guess, Mai-san, would you like to kick things off?
Okay, so thank you, Gabby. Hi, everyone. I'm Mai Fujimoto, and my nickname is Miss Bitcoin. So I have been involved in this industry for 8 years, and I have been watching this industry start from scratch to grow so far. And don't you think we can't see new faces these days? So I think so. And I had been thought this topic overnight. Then I found the answer. So I think we are in the chasm. And so, yeah, and we are in the chasm. And so, sorry. And so I'm very optimistic for the future of cryptocurrency and blockchain because we are almost beyond the chasm. It's meaning there will be more and more newcomer, and they are belonging to different category, majority. And so we need to understand that they have different character. So yes, and we need to prepare for new strategy. I think after 2020, landscape of this industry will be totally different.
Great, thank you, Mai-san. Michael, do you share Mai's optimism about the space when it comes to media attention, awareness, and I guess the nuance of storytelling in this space?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think the storytelling is the most important part of it. And in terms of like how to make the media care about your story, like you just can't make anyone care about anything. I think that's like the thing I want to set straight to be in the beginning here is like kind of the title's already broken in regards to the way that people care about any sort of media. The reason people care about just normal media in general is the fact that they feel emotionally tied to it and there's a connection to it. And the majority of people already, like outside of people sitting in the audience and outside of the people that come to these events and things, the majority of people don't care about cryptocurrency. They fear it to a degree because they either lost money themselves or people they know lost money. And so you can't. Before I go down a rabbit hole on that, like you just can't make people care about it. You just have to be yourself. You have to tell the story that's true and that resonates from you, and you have to hope that people connect with that story.
Marcel, do you share the same sentiment? Are you seeing any changes? Because you're on obviously the comm side of things, and that's kind of a big part of your scope. You're pitching to outlets.
Yeah. For us, obviously over the last 18 months, things have changed radically. 18 months ago, we were all about ICOs and promoting and doing PR to facilitate fundraising and getting awareness about what we were doing, but very much we were raising money with no more than a white paper and nice faces on a team sheet. But now, most of the industry, the one that made it successfully to the ICO phase, are now developing products. So for now, our mission is to get media to care about our products and to communicate what we're actually doing and what we are developing. So it's about establishing a longer-term relationship with media, while 18 months ago, or at the beginning of the crazy ICO race, was more about like getting the momentum and keep them excited for like the short 3 months period. Now we're actually developing products, and we have a much better relationship with media, and it's more of a long-term strategy. We at SingularityNET, we've been very lucky because at the beginning we had some very interesting tools that were attracting a lot of media attention, such as Sophia the robot, right? So whenever we were mentioning Sophia the robot and the AI company behind Sophia, everyone was covering us happily. Now that the product is actually something that we build our own, which is an AI platform, it's a little bit more difficult, but it's, as I said, it's something that pays off on the long term.
As an outsider looking into this industry, it always seems like everyone's in a state of perpetual development. And as a journalist, when I want to write or learn more about these products, there's a sense of like still in development. When are you launching? So that's a nice segue to go over to Dylan, who works over at Cointelegraph. So, I mean, how have things changed for you in the last, I guess, year or so in terms of the nature of the emails you get in your inbox, of what you're hearing in Telegram chat groups or on Twitter?
Nothing's changed.
Nothing's changed?
Nothing's changed. I still get useless pitches, and the signal-to-noise ratio, personally speaking, is completely out of whack. It's not even about the emails that I get, because I don't even see those. To me, it's junk mail. The stories that I personally care about come from some curiosity that I already have, or something I read online. It doesn't happen through email. It happens at events like this. You put faces to names. You build relationships in person. I don't think you can build effective relationships from scratch via email. And this is basic. I think 95% of PR people operate this way. It's noise to me.
Not even LinkedIn messages?
This is worse than email.
Yeah.
I don't think I've logged into LinkedIn. I haven't logged into LinkedIn for more than a month.
Brave man. Wise decision, actually.
It's easy. It's so easy to ignore that nonsense.
I second that. LinkedIn is trash. It's absolutely horrible.
Which brings me to the next kind of area of focus, which is that obviously with journalists that cover the blockchain and crypto beat kind of on their path to discover things that they're genuinely interested in, finding real, authentic stories. There is another aspect of this awareness raising, which is the role of key opinion leaders and influencers in kind of raising awareness. Obviously, Mai-san, as Miss Bitcoin, you do a lot of work in this space. You know, could you, sorry, yes, Dylan, what would you like to say?
This is the great weapon that PR people have that they aren't using, is that they are immediately connected to powerful, interesting people. And instead of giving a journalist FaceTime or access to these people, they want you to read a press release and write something about it. If you're not, if you're a PR person in this audience and you're not pimping out access to your client, then you're making mistakes.
And we were worried that you wouldn't have enough to say on this panel, Dylan. You will have time to speak more of your piece when it comes to how people should approach you. But first, Ashley, I want to get some insights from Mai-san in terms of, you know, your role as a key opinion leader, how you use it to help when guys like Dylan are on a mission to find, you know, the deeper stories. But there are things in the crypto and Bitcoin community that need awareness raised.
Okay, so sorry for my English, but I'm trying to best. So I got interviewed around 50 times in the many countries. So from my experience, it is very important that make memorable impact. For example, my nickname, it myself, my Miss Bitcoin is memorable, I think. And if I didn't use this nickname, it was impossible to achieve my current career. And I also made a donation platform, KIZUNA, but if it is not founded by me, probably KIZUNA can't get good awareness. So I actively work as KOL and talk about the importance of crypto donation. So at many conferences like today, this is a promotion for KIZUNA. And when I talk to non-crypto conference, I always think carefully 3 points because they are not the innovator, not early adapter, or most of them are majority. And then today, I want to tell you about how to PR a newcomer. So it is important for all media people now. And so there are 3 points that make your PR successful. One, make daily use imaging. And two, don't use too much in a community slang. And three, make the bridge between blockchain industry to other industry. And first, make daily use imaging. So we don't need to explain too much about the technology. So let me think about iPhone. So I don't know how iPhone connected to the internet. And so I don't know which kind of chip inside. But I'm using iPhone because very useful and stylish. And so for majority, we need to explain how it will change our lifestyle and what can we do with them. So second, don't use too much in a community slang. Let's think about this conversation. So I hope Bitcoin will to the moon near future, and I keep hodl Bitcoin. So do you think majority can understand this? So of course not. And so I think you believe you are not the one, but we often don't realize. So let's use the normal language. So last one is make the bridge between blockchain industry to another industry. Yeah, another industry. So let me introduce my successful PR campaign. So I arranged talk session with famous influencer and blockchain player. For example, I had Mr. Daido Manabe, who is elected by 11 important people at the 13th anniversary special website of Apple. So he is a great creator who represents not only Japan, but also in the world. The point is they are already have many followers and many people know about them. And yes, so that is one example for my success PR campaign.
All right, thanks a lot, my son. So, Michael, obviously, as the founder of Titan Ventures, you do a lot of work helping companies kind of position themselves in the marketplace and explaining their value proposition to a wider audience. Could you share, any shifts that you've observed in the last year or so in terms of the kind of asks you're getting from clients and the kind of feedback you're getting from the wider market in the work you do?
I mean, the last shift over the year that I've observed just going to events in general, like things like that, is that people actually have something to share, right? So the majority, I was very surprised at Consensus this year in New York, and the majority of the conferences after that, I didn't get shilled one thing from someone that didn't actually have a product. I actually have had maybe 3 to 5, maybe 10 people this entire year tell me about their ICO or their IEO and how they're raising money. besides LinkedIn, I get stupid fucking messages all the time on LinkedIn about that stuff that I ignore. But yeah, I think that's the biggest shift that I've seen is just people are actually building cool things, and it's much easier to share a value proposition with the world and with the community if they actually have something that they've built that has potential value and that can actually start onboarding users.
Marcello, for SingularityNET, and obviously you handle communications for them, how have you, have there been kind of key changes in how you approach your comm strategy in the last 6 months based on obviously the shifts in the industry that you're seeing?
Well, yeah.
Apart from promoting Sophia the robot.
Yeah, well, Sophia the robot is gone, unfortunately, so
That
we're
is
no longer
true.
affiliated with her. But we're still working on using Sophia as a platform to showcase what our open source AI can do. Likely enough, our team is working very well, so we have the fortune of reaching out to media with very cool developments, partnerships, and new integrations. So, for example, today we announced that we integrated PayPal as a fiat gateway to actually purchase algorithm to our platform. So we're kind of switching the approach and opening up our AI marketplace to a wider audience that is not just a crypto audience. And I do strongly believe that that's a media it's a story that can interest the media, and I know that Dylan has written about it because I think that actually has meaning for the crypto community. I mean, we are moving a little bit aside from a purist crypto approach, and even though blockchain as a technology is still the underlying support for the AI marketplace, we are not strictly tied to the cryptocurrency community, so we are expanding. So I had the fortune to work for a company that is actually working on something, is actually developing features, is actually striking partnerships. So for us, it's very easy to build a relationship with journalists, and that's what my job is, and that's what I do when I travel around the world. I tend to have a personal approach with journalists, as Dylan was suggesting, and but which is very interesting to see how, despite the rise of all these digital communication tools, it always goes down to the most primitive way of connecting, which is face-to-face, and the most meaningful, right? So it might be very easy for me to find a journalist, personal email, personal phone, and reach on all many different channels. But the face-to-face, the handshake, and the going out for dinner is still there, and it's still one of the best ways. So yeah.
All right. So I guess, Dylan, the question to ask then is, what topics interest you for the guy sitting in the room now thinking, oh, I mean, okay, he's not going to read my email. He hasn't logged into LinkedIn in a month, and I don't even know if he's tracking Twitter. But I believe that I have a great story about blockchain that, he should totally listen to. How should I approach you and not have my head bitten off? Or a beer bottle thrown at me, or a rotten tomato, whatever that you have at hand.
I drink sparkling water.
Oh, very nice.
I think the unit of a story is a headline. If you can't condense what you're trying to get out into the world into a headline, then it doesn't matter to me. What is the soundbite version of your story? Can you get my attention in 10 words? Because that's about all I have the patience for, to be honest with you. What's the headline? What's the headline? Get to the headline. That's the first thing a reader sees. It's the thing that I care a lot about. Put it in the terms of a headline and make me interested in it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the fact that journalists don't read their emails is a misconception. I mean, most of the time, actually, journalists do read emails. Or
I read my
the
email,
subject,
but
yeah.
I know how to skip the press releases that I don't care about.
Absolutely. So, exactly. So, I mean, ultimately, it goes down to what you care about. It's not even like, how do I reach out to you? Most of the time, the email address that I found is a good way to reach out to you if I manage to make it interesting for you. Yeah. If you don't reply, you're just not interested. I mean, I can...
Yeah, maybe it's good guidance to suggest that make your subject line of your email pitch the best headline you can come up with. That might be good guidance.
This seems like a good moment to pick up a question from the crowd via Slido. Anonymous. Aw, why be anonymous? Are press kits still necessary? And what materials or methods would journalists prefer to learn more about a startup? So apart from the headline and the best subject line one has ever written in their lives, what else?
Press kits come so late in the process. If you have a press kit, that I assume you've solved dozens of problems already. I don't think press kit is step one. I think headline is step one, because if the headline is no good, then it means the idea is no good. So if you're going to build a press kit around an idea that's less than stellar, it feels like a waste of resources to me.
All right. Oh, this is a good one. I guess this one, Michael, you might have a stake in, because the question is, will podcast platforms overtake the traditional written article?
I mean, I think it depends on who, like, what kind of content people like prefer to consume. I don't read articles ever. That shit's so boring to me.
A little bit of Dylan just died right there.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
I know people read less.
Yeah, it's just not it's not my thing. But I know a lot of people that love to read articles and that won't listen to a 30-minute podcast, right? So I think it's the job of the content creators or the media outlets to create content in multiple different forms. You know, I'd like to be able to go to Cointelegraph or CoinDesk or whatever media outlet and read an article, or click a button that has somebody reading the article for me, that I can do stuff while it's playing in the background and consume some information, right? That's why I try to cut my podcast into 30 minutes, and then I also utilize the key points of each podcast and cut it into 30-second to a minute clips as well, so that people who don't want to digest all of that information can do so in a very, very short period of time for like the relevant information.
Do you think podcasts in particular is a really great format, a medium for blockchain and crypto as a topic of discussion?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great medium for any topic of discussion, to be honest with you. I think the world's moving more and more towards like the usage of voice with systems like Alexa and Google Voice and all these crazy things that are coming out now. So yeah, I think we're going to see more and more uses of podcasts, and you're going to have to do creative things to stay relevant, because there's so many coming out.
That's true. Marcello, so as the PR pro here, what is the one thing that you never want to hear from your internal stakeholders when they come to you with the, I want a front page on Wall Street Journal about our project? Or what is, you know, if you had to eliminate one question from an internal stakeholder from history and the future, what's on your wish list?
Well, that would be the main, right? I mean, I've been...
The front page of Wall Street Journal request?
Mostly it's TechCrunch in my case. Like, everyone wants to be on TechCrunch, and everyone, like, since I have a past as a contributor of TechCrunch, they think that I can get any startup on TechCrunch, and that's something that I can very little tolerate anymore. But that's, I think that another misconception is the fact that the biggest media should care about your small startups. You know, I mean, that we should go back to build your product, put together a stellar team, and have a striking mission and vision. And then once you're ready, approach the big media. But you need to build up the hype from the start, from below, and not literally like just aim to the top ones. And going back to the podcast question real quick, another thing I had the fortune of working on has been the Joe Rogan experience. So we got our CEO, Ben Gortzel, on the Joe Rogan podcast. And despite I'm still a big fan, I mean, I read articles a lot. I don't listen to podcasts because for me it takes too long and I can just have it on the background all the time. But the Joe Rogan experience has been by far the most viewed and read story about our brand and our CEO. I think it's about 12 million total views right now. So more than the New York Times, more than TechCrunch, more than the Wall Street Journal. So I second what you guys were saying. We're probably moving to a world where podcast and voice is more relevant, and the Joe Rogan experience is one of the example. Even though other platforms such as paid podcast platform like Luminarity, what's the name? Luminarity is a paid podcast platform where a lot of influencers have moved to. Subscription based. Yeah. I'm not sure if they're doing very well, because I don't think people are still ready to pay for this kind of content.
Yeah.
Exactly. So that's a whole new challenge. But yeah, I want to just add to that.
So we assume the future is voice and podcasts are not going away. What would be your kind of tip or advice to companies looking to use this channel as a way to get their story out there and get known?
I mean, I think every company in crypto or like any company that wants to have some sort of media presence should have a podcast. I think EOS should have a podcast. I think Ethereum should have a podcast, you know? And you don't even need to talk about Ethereum or EOS all the time. You can just have conversations about the crypto space. Like, I just don't understand why people aren't doing it. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's like maybe 30 minutes to an hour a week to actually sit down and record it. We all know the majority of companies have enough money to send it out and pay $75 to $100 for editors to get it up and throw it on their website or on iTunes and things like that. And people in the community want constant content, not just from news sources, not just from content creators. They want it from the actual sources of companies that are creating products and that are building things. They want to hear from the leaders. They want to hear from the people that are in the company. So I think most companies, I mean, in general, besides just the podcasting, I think most companies are completely failing on the content creation side and on interacting with their community, and they can do it a lot better, and one of the ways they can do it better is with podcasts.
So I'm just going to take a moment to remind the audience that you can submit any questions you'd like the panel to answer via Slido. Yes, thank you, technical team. So please don't hesitate to submit it. Yes, you can be anonymous. But I guess with 10 minutes left on the clock, I guess a fun question always for the panel is, when it comes to PR, one component is obviously crisis communications and bad PR fails. So my question to the panel would be, what has, in recent memory, been one of your most memorable crisis PR fails that you've observed in the industry? It doesn't have to be related to you. It can be Dylan, because I know you have probably 5 examples in your head that you want to share because it just made you go, what? Yes, please, Dylan.
I don't think it's crisis. It's more like fumbling a ball or something like this. It's not, crisis is too strong, but pitching via email and following up once a week, nonstop, especially if it's at my personal address.
How many weeks in a row?
Like 3 or 4. And it's also kind of easy for me to tell when people are using auto form fill stuff. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've gotten an email, dear first name. Like, that's literally what it says, is dear first name and then a pitch. All that does is it makes me feel removed from whoever is. Email is already impersonal enough. And then when to these kinds of careless mistakes, not crisis, but just kind of embarrassing mistakes, that it doesn't help anything. I put it that way. It doesn't help.
Michael, any memorable oops, fails?
When Walton Chain last year tweeted out that they won their own award that they were giving out, if anybody's on Twitter, you already know that, you remember that. It became a huge meme throughout the community. Everybody was like freaking out. They did a giveaway and one of their team members won it, but they accidentally tweeted from the company account that they won it. And it looked really, really bad, and it's still to this day, people remember that exact moment in time and will always joke about it. So it's not necessarily a crisis, but it like damages the brand. It just makes you look stupid. So just don't do stupid things, you know, double check like before you tweet something, or like look over what you're doing.
Marcello, any memorable?
No, not that I remember on myself. We
Doesn't
never
have to
really,
be about your company. It could
but
be others.
It's bad to talk about someone else, right? So we fortunately we never actually screw up that bad.
Touch wood.
Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. But something that I could mention is when, and that was back at the day at Hansel Robotics. So go back to Sophia again, because that's an easy case to pull out often, is when she publicly said that she wanted to destroy the world or kill all humans, and that was pretty bad PR. But again, it's how you eventually we managed to spin it in a nice way. So it's often how you spin bad PR and how you handle the crisis. And also another bad crisis that happened in the crypto world that was, to me, managed pretty well actually, is when Binance, right, got hacked by 60 million, and they immediately react super well. They went live on their YouTube channel, CZ, when handling all the questions. And then all of a sudden it came out by saying that they could actually rewrite the blockchain and reverse the mistake. And that was a shit idea, right?
Yeah.
And it was like the community would say, how the fuck you dare? And then he managed to reverse that as well and to spin it in their favor. So it's not about the initial fuck up, but it's also how you spin it and how you react. And if you react timely, you actually have opportunity to turn into good PR for yourself.
Since I have you on the mic, I just want to fulfill an audience question. What would be the most effective method to pitch a project? So in the panel discussion so far, we've learned the best way to pitch a project is to not send a LinkedIn message or an email. But if you do send an email, the subject line better be kick-ass. So any other tips for pitching successfully a project to media?
Yeah, well, it really depends on the stage of the project. If you are very early, or if you are already like achieving, you have a product, or you have a growth stage, etc. If let's assume it's a startup project that doesn't have a product yet, or maybe it's building a product that doesn't have any traction yet, I would normally try to have a one-on-one conversation with the editor, whether that happened through Telegram or initially via email. But I wouldn't pitch immediately the press release, pretending that this person would care about my press release right away. So I try to offer some value to the journalist and see what I can provide, and then we establish a relationship. And once that is established, we see how we can get coverage.
All right. So my son, just to bring things back to, unless Michael, you have something to
I want
add.
to add on that. Like, you don't pitch it. Just don't pitch shit. Like, I think it's so stupid when people just come up to me and say, hey, let me tell you about this project, and like, I want you to tweet about me. I'm like, dude, I don't know you. I've never talked to you before. We have no connection as human beings. I think the first step is to just be human with with someone else. You need to just like be like, hey, you want to grab a drink? Hey, you want to go grab some food? Or hey, like, what do you think about these things? You get into a conversation with someone like far before you even bring up a pitch or even talk about your company at all. It's like the one thing that makes me aggravated and frustrated every single time someone does it. And that goes for like in person or online. Like I think some of the biggest and the strongest relationships can start online. My business partner, my roommate, we were friends via a Telegram group. Never met each other for an entire year, but became like best friends when we first met up in person, and now run a business and live together. But I think the majority of people fail because they have an immediate expectation of what they want out of a relationship before the relationship even begins. And so they go into it and they say, hey, you're a journalist for Cointelegraph. I need this guy to do this for me. Or, hey, you're an influencer. I need you to tweet for me. And before you even get into the conversation of, hey, like, who are you as a person? Like, how can I relate with you? How can I be human with you? How can we just connect and like vibe together? You like immediately want something out of them, then you've already failed.
So let me play devil's advocate in that sense then. There is a very small pool of journalists and influencers and people with platforms and megaphones to talk about the crypto and blockchain community. But there are hundreds and tens of thousands of players and there's only so many. There's a finite number of connections that each one of us can maintain at any given time. So if I were one of these guys out in the audience and I want to make a connection with you, Michael, or Dylan, or you, Marcello, and you have already hundreds of people talking to you at the same time, like, how then should I go about trying to even get your attention? It's not to say I send you a Telegram message going hi, that you're gonna reply back, because you're managing so many these kind of connects at any one point in time.
I think you do that. You take it one step at a time. You know, you come say hi to me in person, you send me a Telegram. I respond to every message, whether it's Twitter, whether it's Telegram, like whether it's email, whatever. Like I respond to every single person. So it just like, it's like how, like what time frame are you thinking about? Because most people are thinking about, oh, I need a Cointelegraph article and I need it within the next 2 weeks. Therefore, I'm going to send this guy an email and then I'm going to follow up with him every single day for the next 7 days until he responds and says yes. And it's the same thing with me on Twitter. I have messages in my DMs that I haven't like opened and accepted because it's all just people just shilling this. Hey, have you seen this coin? Hey, have you seen this? Hey, have you seen this? And that doesn't interest me. It annoys me. So I'm not going to look at that shit.
Yeah, you seem like you have something to say, Dylan.
Keep it human. Don't be a pitching robot. You know, we've said this like 3 different ways already. Just if you are imbued with emotional intelligence, then you can probably tell when you're making a mistake.
All right, so I guess we have only a couple of minutes left. So, what? No, I'm not asking this question. No, because I want to end things obviously with going back to that whole handling bad PR and crisis, because we only have 2 minutes left. My son, you know, what's your advice or guidance to people who are trying to get over, you know, a bad PR or they got called out? You know, how do you handle it?
Okay, so I think it is very important to work honestly, not to chase easy money. Maintain trust is a way to survive longer. Yeah, this is, I think, very important.
So trust, honesty, keeping it human,
Yep.
keep connecting. We have 1 minute and 30 seconds left. I'm trying to read this question I got from Slido, which is longer than the time we have left. Components to get good PR for your fundraising activity, especially in the crypto space where trust is important. Having good backers, attractive headline, what else do we need?
Why is fundraising news? Is my first question.
Oh God, don't even get me started on that. But yes, please proceed.
Well, something has to happen, and personally speaking, I don't think somebody raising money is especially interesting. It depends on, maybe it depends on what they're doing with the money, but it better be awesome.
Blowing it on a vacation in Hawaii?
No. I don't think fundraising is news.
Who's
Agreed,
raising?
agreed.
Who's raising? Maybe it's news.
Sorry.
Depending on who is raising.
Yeah, I mean, like if it's Peter Thiel or something like this, maybe that's newsworthy, but we probably already know what they're going to do with whatever money they raise, so that makes it not totally newsworthy as well. I don't know. If we're going to go hypothetical, it could be yes or no.
All right. So on that last tip, fundraising is not news, so don't send that to Dylan. With that, I'd like to thank my panel for their time on stage today. A round of applause, please.
Thank you so much for the panelists.